Welcome to Dino Decoded, where every fossil tells a story, and every bone holds a whisper from the deep past. Imagine a landscape of rust-colored dunes, sculpted by a wind that hasn't stopped blowing for 75 million years. The air is dry, the sun intense. Out of the corner of your eye, you see a sudden, sharp movement, a blur of feathers and claws. Gone in an instant. Ever wonder what it would be like to face a creature from the movies, only to discover the reality is smaller, smarter, and covered in feathers? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you find the journey we're about to take is a valuable one. We'd love for you to share where you are watching from in the comments below, and which prehistoric creature fascinates you the most. Now, let's journey back in time and uncover the story of a lost world. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the word raptor. What do you see? You probably see a creature born from cinematic genius, a 6-foot-tall, cold-blooded hunter with gray-green, scaly skin. You see its breath fogging up the glass of a kitchen door. You hear that chilling, high-pitched shriek as it coordinates an attack with its pack. You see a terrifyingly intelligent monster, a reptilian wolf with a calculating gaze, capable of outsmarting its human prey at every turn. This is the animal that haunted our collective nightmares, the undisputed star of Jurassic Park, a symbol of prehistoric terror. It is a magnificent, unforgettable creation, and it is a complete and total lie. The creature you just imagined, the one that made you hold your breath in a darkened theater, never walked the earth. It is a ghost, a spectacular fiction woven from a few threads of truth. The real animal was something else entirely. Its story begins not on a Hollywood soundstage, but in the remote, windswept badlands of the Gobi Desert. Its name, given by paleontologists who unearthed its first remains, is Velociraptor mongoliensis. It's a name that translates to Swift Caesar from Mongolia, a title that promises cunning and speed, but the creature that name belongs to is stranger, more bird-like, and infinitely more fascinating than the movie monster that stole its identity. To meet it, we first have to let go of the fiction and follow the fossil trail. That fossil trail leads us first not to Asia, but to North America, and to a completely different animal. So, if the cinematic ghost that stalked those stainless steel kitchens wasn't Velociraptor, where did its blueprint come from? For that, you have to meet its Hollywood-bodied double, a larger and more powerfully built cousin named Deinonychus. The name means terrible claw, and it was discovered decades before the movie was ever conceived. Deinonychus was a revelation that kick-started a revolution, found in the rocky layers of the early Cretaceous period, roughly 115 million years ago. This was a creature that shattered the old perception of dinosaurs as slow, lumbering, tail-dragging beasts. Imagine an animal the height of a man, built like a terrestrial hawk, and armed with a 5-inch, sickle-shaped claw on each foot. This wasn't a plodding reptile. This was a dynamic, agile predator. The scientists who studied its remains saw evidence of a creature with a high metabolism, an active hunter that likely pursued its prey. Its discovery was a key moment in the dinosaur renaissance, a period when our entire understanding of these animals was being rewritten. They went from being cold-blooded swamp dwellers in our imagination to intelligent, energetic, and successful animals much more like birds than lizards. This new, electrifying vision of a fast, intelligent raptor was exactly what the author of Jurassic Park was looking for. He found his perfect antagonist not in the true records of Velociraptor, But in the groundbreaking research surrounding Deinonychus, he essentially took the chassis of Deinonychus, its size, its power, its fearsome reputation in the scientific community, and performed a simple name swap. Why? Perhaps because the name Velociraptor just sounded better. It's sharp, elegant, and perfectly encapsulates the idea of speed. It was a brilliant choice for a thriller, but it cemented a case of mistaken identity in popular culture for decades to come. Now, with the Hollywood stand-in finally unmasked, we can leave the plains of ancient Montana behind. It's time to turn our gaze to the arid deserts of Mongolia and meet the real star of our story. As your eyes adjust to the brilliant glare of the late Cretaceous sun, the creature steps out from behind a sparse desert shrub, and the first thing you realize is the scale. Forget the 6-foot movie monster entirely. The animal standing before you is startlingly small, about the size of a large, wild turkey. It stands barely 2 feet tall at the hip, and its total length of about 6 feet is mostly comprised of a long, stiff, balancing tail. It might weigh 30, maybe 40 pounds. Soaking wet, you are not looking at a reptilian giant, you are looking at a sleek, compact, and immaculately designed predator. Your mind struggles to reconcile this with the scaly beast of fiction, because this animal is covered, from the tip of its snout to the fan of its tail, in feathers, not just a downy fuzz, but the complex, multi-layered coat. You see the shaggy, insulating feathers on its body, perhaps mottled in browns and tans to blend in with the sand and rock. Most strikingly, you see the long, structured feathers lining its arms, forming a pair of primitive wings. How can we be so certain about these display-worthy wings? The secret is written directly on its bones. On the ulna, one of the forearm bones of Velociraptor, fossils show a series of small, regularly spaced bumps. These are quill knobs, the very same anchor points for large flight feathers that you can find on the skeleton of a modern eagle or vulture. This isn't speculation. It's a direct, physical link to the birds in our skies today. You then notice its head. The snout is long, narrow, and surprisingly delicate, filled with more than 24 small, serrated teeth on each side, perfect for gripping struggling prey. And finally, your eyes are drawn down to its feet, to the weapon that made it famous, the sickle claw. It's there, just as you expected, held up off the ground like a switchblade. But as you watch the creature move, you realize its function has been misunderstood. It's not a long, slashing blade for disemboweling. The anatomy suggests a different, more precise purpose, a tool for pinning, like the talon of a hawk that clamps down on its meal. This claw was a grappling hook, designed to pierce and restrain smaller animals against the ground, giving the raptor complete control as it began to feed. Now, watch this feathered hunter move. You see how its sandy brown plumage offers the perfect camouflage, not for the lush, dripping jungles of Isla Nublar, but for the world that was its true home. To understand Velociraptor, you must erase the image of ferns and tropical rain. Its stage was the heart of Central Asia, 75 million years ago, a place we now call the Gobi Desert. But in its time, it was a vast, semi-arid landscape of monumental sand dunes, cracked earth, and rocky outcrops. The air here is thick with heat and fine dust, and the wind is a constant companion, endlessly reshaping the sandy terrain. This is a world of extremes. There are no towering forests, only low-lying, hardy shrubs, and tough, drought-resistant plants clustered around seasonal riverbeds that might rage with water for a few weeks a year before vanishing back into the sand. For much of the year, it is a difficult place to live, a landscape that demands resilience from all its inhabitants. Survival here means being able to withstand scorching daytime temperatures, chilly nights, and the constant search for water. It is a world that would have shaped any predator into an efficient, opportunistic hunter. There was little room for error. As you scan the horizon, you see that the Velociraptor is not alone. Life here is surprisingly diverse. You spot a small herd of stout, pig-like animals, each with a bony frill protecting its neck and a sharp, parrot-like beak for slicing through tough vegetation. These are Protoceratops, one of the most common herbivores in this environment, and a staple on the menu for any local carnivore. Over by a cluster of rocks, you see another strange, bird-like dinosaur, a tall, cassowary-like creature with a toothless beak and a bony crest on its head. This is an oviraptor, carefully guarding its nest of eggs. And if you look closely at the ground, you can see the frantic scurrying of small, furry mammals, darting from the shadow of one rock to the next. This is the ecosystem of the Velociraptor, not a jungle paradise, but a challenging desert arena filled with tough prey, potential competitors, and the ever-present threat of starvation. In this harsh world of hunter and hunted, conflict is a daily reality. But how can we be truly certain of these ancient dramas? Usually, paleontologists work like detectives, piecing together clues from scattered bones, healed bite marks, and isolated teeth. But in one astonishing case from the Gobi Desert, the evidence is absolute, captured in a single, breathtaking fossil. It's known as the fighting dinosaurs, and it is perhaps the most incredible behavioral fossil ever discovered. It is not a collection of bones, it is a story, a violent ballet frozen in time. Imagine the scene: a lone velociraptor, driven by hunger, has targeted a solitary Protoceratops. The attack is swift. The two animals are locked in a desperate struggle on the slope of a sand dune, their battle churning the loose ground beneath them. And then, in an instant, the dune collapses. A suffocating avalanche of sand buries them both, preserving them exactly as they were in their final, violent moment. When this fossil was unearthed millions of years later, it provided an unparalleled snapshot of prehistoric life and death. As you look upon it, you see the story unfold. The Velociraptor is latched onto its larger prey. One of its hands grips the heavy frill of the Protoceratops, trying to gain leverage. Its left foot is planted on the ground for stability, while its right foot is raised, and its famous sickle claw is driven deep into the neck and throat region of the herbivore. Here is the proof of its purpose, not for slashing, but for piercing and pinning, a precision strike at a vital area. But this was no easy kill. The Protoceratops, in its final moments, fought back with incredible power. Its strong, turtle-like beak, designed to snap through tough plants, is clamped down with crushing force on the right arm of the Velociraptor. The bone is visibly broken. This single stone tablet tells us everything. It is undeniable proof the Velociraptor hunted formidable prey, that its claw was a lethal weapon, and that every hunt was a desperate gamble where the hunter could just as easily become the victim. That duel frozen in stone showed a lone hunter locked in a desperate one-on-one battle. This powerful image of a solitary predator stands in sharp contrast to the most famous and perhaps most terrifying aspect of its cinematic legend: the coordinated pack. You can picture it perfectly. The raptors moving through the undergrowth like a single organism, using complex calls to communicate, flanking their prey, setting traps with a chilling, strategic intelligence. It's a compelling and horrifying thought. It is also, by all available evidence, a fiction. As of today, there is no direct fossil evidence to support the idea of complex, cooperative pack hunting in Velociraptor. The fossils of these animals are almost always found alone. The fighting dinosaur specimen itself is the ultimate testament to a one-on-one confrontation. So where did the idea of a raptor pack come from? Once again, the trail leads back to its larger American cousin, Deinonychus. A famous fossil site in Montana yielded the remains of several Deinonychus individuals scattered around the skeleton of a much larger herbivore. The initial, thrilling interpretation was that this was a pack that had united to bring down a giant, dying in the attempt. However, more recent analysis offers a less cinematic and perhaps more plausible explanation. Instead of an organized wolf-like pack, imagine a chaotic feeding frenzy. It's possible that one Deinonychus made the kill, or perhaps the large herbivore was already dead or dying, and its carcass simply attracted multiple solitary predators to the same spot. Like Komodo dragons mobbing a buffalo today, they might have swarmed the food source, fighting with each other, with the stronger or luckier ones getting the prize. This suggests a mob, not a team. For the true, smaller velociraptor in the Gobi, a solitary lifestyle makes perfect sense. It was more than capable of hunting the lizards, mammals, and small dinosaurs that shared its environment on its own. While it's certainly possible they formed loose family groups or temporary associations, the kind of sophisticated, tactical pack hunting seen on screen remains firmly in the realm of speculation. They were undoubtedly intelligent animals for their time, with a brain-to-body size ratio that was high for a dinosaur, but their cunning was likely that of a hawk or an eagle, instinctive and sharp, not the plodding, human-like intellect of a movie monster. So, we strip away the layers of cinematic fantasy. One by one, we shrink the 6-foot giant down to the size of a turkey. We peel away the rubbery, scaly skin and replace it with a sophisticated coat of feathers. We quiet the complex calls of a coordinated pack and listen instead to the sounds of a solitary hunter. What are we left with when all the myths are gone? You are left with the real animal. And it is a creature that profoundly changes our understanding of what a dinosaur could be. Let's assemble the final portrait from the evidence we've gathered. You have a warm-blooded, bipedal predator. You have bones that are hollow and light. Just like a bird's, you have a wishbone, or furcula, a feature once thought to be unique to birds. You have quill knobs on its forearms, undeniable proof of wing-like structures. You see a posture and a predatory style, using its talons to pin struggling prey that mirrors the hawks and eagles of today. When you put all of these pieces together, from the skeleton to the skin, the line between dinosaur and bird becomes wonderfully, irrevocably blurred. The creature before you is less a terrible lizard and more of a flightless bird of prey, a lost branch of the avian family tree. This is the true legacy of Velociraptor. It was not the ancestor of modern birds. That honor belongs to a different, related lineage, but it was their very close cousin. It belongs to a family of dinosaurs, the dromaeosaurs, who show us just how bird-like dinosaurs had become by the late Cretaceous. They are a snapshot of evolution in action. They teach us that birds are not merely descended from dinosaurs, They are dinosaurs, the only branch of that magnificent family to survive the Great Extinction. The real Velociraptor's role was not to be a movie monster, but to be a teacher, a key that helped unlock one of the greatest stories in the history of life. Its ghost isn't in a theme park. Its living legacy is the wind that blows across the Gobi Desert today is the same wind that once rustled the feathers of Velociraptor. It carries with it the dust of ages, a reminder of how vast and deep time truly is, and how fragile even the most successful forms of life can be. Our journey back to this lost world shows us that the truth, pieced together from fragments of bone and stone, is often more wondrous than any fiction we could invent. The story of life is written in the earth itself, waiting for us to learn how to read it. And the past is never truly gone. It lives on in the flight of a sparrow, in the gaze of an owl, and in the enduring sense of awe we feel when we look up at the sky and imagine the feathered giants who once ruled the world below.